Hello, and welcome back to another encouraging, inspiring, and including episode of the Achieving Unity Success Formula Weekly podcast, where we help turn chaos into connection and purpose into action. I am your host, Mark Intrican, founder of the Achieving Unity Success Formula, also known as the Unity Success Formula, which you can find at www.unitysuccessformula.com, which is dedicated to improving lives by encouraging, inspiring, and including others. Hope you will go to my website and look at my post and my blog, because you'll see that EII, there's a 10 series article on encouraging, inspiring, and including others, the EII, and how we all can and must work together. Today, I am honored to introduce a truly remarkable guest, Dr. Edwin Mouriño-Ruiz. Dr. Edwin is a leadership visionary. He's also an Air Force veteran, and thank you so much for your service.
Thank you.
Dr. Edwin, I appreciate that so much for our freedoms. His life work centers on helping leaders create what he calls a human intelligent workplace, a place where people feel valued, people feel understood, and people are inspired to bring their best selves forward. He is a respected author, a global speaker, and senior fellow with the Conference Board, guiding organizations to balance the power of technology with the heart of humanity. In a world that is increasingly shaped by artificial intelligence, Dr. Mouriño reminds us that our greatest strength still lies in our human intelligence and how we use it to lead, connect, and achieve unity together. But first, before we delve into this insightful discussion, let me briefly introduce my company, Reality Focused Dynamics, where it all began. As you can see on the screen, it's my gift to you. Let's talk about the hardcore problem with anger, hate, and prejudice. A lot of times that's frustration, that's disconnection, and prejudgment. We need to stop that. We need to look at the world in a better way. As Dr. Mouriño will talk later, it's about that human intelligence, but I also call the heartfelt intelligence. But if you go out to that site, you'll see on the left, or you can get it right off the screen now, the QR code is my Achieving Unity Guide. I'd love for you to see it, read it, get back to me. Let's talk further about how we can do it. And if I can come talk to your organization, your corporation, your association, organization, your university, I'd love to come talk with you. On the right, as I mentioned before, my blog. That's where my articles are all stored. So please go out there, check out my articles, give me feedback. Let's start conversation. Let's start the discussion. Let's talk about it more. The Achieving Unity Success Formula, this is weekly podcast number 60. Yes, we've been here for a year and 8 episodes. Thank you for everyone who has joined over and over. We appreciate it. And I know a lot of you can't attend during the day, so you watch it on the replay, the recording, which you can get off of YouTube. Thank you so much. We are here every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Come back, put us on your calendar. We'd love to see you this week as we are, and to see you next week. Please come back. But here's what it's all about, the company. Reality, focus, dynamics, success, focus solutions. As you see on our logo on the slide, it truly reflects the core of what we do and how we stand firm. Reality focused. We want to make sure that we're focused on what the realities are that we're dealing with today, the dynamics that puts them into motion. And as we do that, we work on the success focus solution. Notice how focused is the heart. That's because everything that we explore, from reality-focused dynamics to success-focused solutions, revolve around clear, intentional direction. In fact, the concept of being focused is so core to us that it is even reflected in our business phone number, 303-362-8733. If you look at it on your phone dial, yes, even on your cell phones, they still have those letters by the numbers. It spells 303 focused on your phone pad. We believe that by truly being focused on what matters, we can create meaningful change and achieve lasting unity. We can show you proven, compassionate strategies that turns conflict into lasting harmony. We can do this at home, at work, and in every relationship that matters. Are you ever frustrated by tension? That frustration? How about arguments? Our 7-step roadmap gives you the tools to move from conflict to collaboration quickly and confidently. Are you craving stronger trust, stronger connection? We help you discover communication tactics that build respect, repair relationships, and unify teams and families alike. It's not just corporate, it's not just social. It comes into families, into couples. Come talk to us. Let's transform conflict into connection, together, achieving unity. As we know, unity inspires us in our homes. It shapes society, the society around us. It also transforms the workplaces. We help you turn that frustration into understanding. Have you ever wanted to say, or maybe heard someone else say, what the frustration? Okay, they may not have said frustration, but what we do is we help you find the value in the actions instead of reacting in that anger, or again, those frustrations that seem to come about each and every day. We show how anger, A-N-G-E-R, holds no value. It's just actions not gaining effective results. Yes, A-N-G-E-R, anger, actions not gaining effective results. Have you ever been proud of being angry? Have you ever seen someone that was angry that you thought, wow, I want to be like them? Well, too many times we do. Too many times we follow that because we see someone else do it and we think it's okay, but it's not. Anger truly has no value. Yes, life happens. Life happens in every relationship, from personal to professional, from parenting time to partnerships, in the boardroom, in the bedroom, and in every room in between. So we show you how to embrace those challenges. We want you to encourage a more inspired and inclusive future. Again, remember, EII, encourage, inspire, and include others. One vision, one goal, achieving unity in every area of life. What's our call to action? What do we do? Well, first, let's ditch the drama. Let's get stuff done. We will allow you to turn your life. We'll even show you how to turn your life from what may seem at times like a dumpster fire to a well-oiled machine. Achieving unity is the path to stronger relationships, inspired leadership, and lasting change, lifetime improvements. We help you with coaching, consulting, courses, and keynote speeches. Contact us today, www.achievingunity.com. Or again, call me, 303-362-8733. But that's again, 303 focused on your phone pad. There's also a QR code there you can use. However you want to do it, let's get in touch. Let's make this world a better place. One person, one step at a time. Our next podcast, and again, like I say, we are weekly. So put us on your calendars, come back each week. Next week, we'll have Ronald Stein. He'll be talking about energy literacy. What is energy? What is renewable energy? What are we doing? What about this oils and the gases that we use? How are they working for us and how are they impacting us? Mr. Stein will come back and talk to us about that. So please join in. The following week, Debbie Fennell, building lists through relationships. What are your relationships? What are your lists? Are you an entrepreneur? Do you have a small business? What are your lists there? Who are your friends? Do you have a list of friends? Let's talk about them. Find out more. Come back. Let's build our list. Who's important, whether it's personal or professional, at home or business. Let's talk about it. Well, Lori just contacted me today. She's not going to be able to make it, but we do have another person that's going to fill in her spot. So please come back. I'll let you know more about that next week. But thanks to Lori for letting me know. I'm sorry she's not going to be here. We'll try to get her in 2026. The next week, Anita Sarda. What inspires you to lift others? Where does your encouragement come from? What inspires you to lift others? Anita will come talk to us about that on December 3rd. Make sure and be here for that also. The following week, December 10th, Steve Brosman, selling yourself personally and professionally. It's not just a business. We also is on the personal side. So come on back. Talk to us when Steve Brosman's here on 1210. Again, every week. Love to see you here. If you can't make it, watch us on YouTube. We'll have the link out there for you also. Thank you. But now for the big time. This is the guy that I think I've been just so impressed with. The work that he and I do is so much in parallel, as far as in helping others. But he has a way, a step, the BoSS, a way of enabling a human intelligence, HI, a workplace in the growing growing era of AI. So it helps us get the two together. Dr. Edwin Mouriño-Ruiz is a leadership visionary, executive coach, and workplace strategist dedicated to shaping the future of human intelligence, HI, in an increasingly driven world, increasingly driven by artificial intelligence, the AI. Again, an Air Force veteran with extensive experience across aerospace, government, utilities, IT, military, higher education, and Fortune 100 companies, Dr. Mouriño brings both depth and diversity to his work. He's the founder and president of Human Intelligence, HI Workplace, an organization that's devoted to helping leaders help themselves by focusing on leadership development, executive coaching, and emerging human capital trends. Dr. Mouriño is also a published author, speaker, and consultant who has shared his insights at major conferences across the U.S. and internationally around the world, both in English and Spanish. His URL is down at the bottom right of the screen, humanintelligentworkplace.com. Please go out there and check it out. Find out more about him. And I'll give that to you again at the end of the podcast. Please help me welcome Dr. Edwin Mouriño-Ruiz.
Thank you so much,
Edwin,
Mark.
how are you?
I'm very appreciative. I was listening to that. I said, "Who is that guy?" But thank you, Mark. I'm so glad to be here. And really, as you and I were talking earlier, it's kind of interesting how we work in parallel, but at the end of the day, it's helping humanity help itself.
Help humanity help itself. That's so powerful right there. And those are the HI, helping humanity help itself. HI, help itself. Because that's what we have to do. And Edwin, I tell you, it's amazing getting to know you and learning about you. Welcome to the podcast. I have seen so much, it just shows you've worn so many hats, more than most. Air Force veteran. And again, thank you so much for your service and the freedoms that we have today that you have taken part in making sure that we continue to have. You're a professor, an author, a coach, and now the founder of the Human Intelligent Workplace. Tell me, how do you usually introduce yourself when people ask, so what do you do, Edwin? So as you introduce yourself to our wonderful audience, what do you do?
So thanks. Interestingly, I actually, as a kid growing up in New York City, going to Catholic school, wanted to be a doctor because I wanted to help people. Fast forward, went to Puerto Rico, started in college, actually in pre-med, but then I joined the service a few years later. So I broke my grandmother's heart because she thought I was going to graduate and was going to be the doctor of the family. I promised her I would bring back a degree, and I did, but I took a detour. And along the way, I actually backed up into the field of what today is known as diversity. Back then, it was known as human relations. And that's where I got in the Air Force doing a lot of consulting work, doing leadership development work. And once I got out of the Air Force, I continued in that space. So when people ask me, what do? I do two things today. One is I help leaders help themselves and their organizations. And because I also do some college teaching, part-time teaching, I tell them I help my students help themselves. I don't give exams in my classes and things like that. So that should be a good thing for students because as I tell them, I'm not here to help you memorize. I'm here to help you critically analyze what's going on in your workplace and how can you do better in that environment going forward. Particularly when it is estimated we will spend 90,000 waking hours of our adult life at work. So the challenge there and the opportunity is how do you make it a great place? And that's what I've been on a journey of and will speak at whoever will let me speak and write about and continue to push this envelope forward about that we just need a better, great workplace at the end of the day. Because work is the fifth cause of death, unfortunately, due to stress. So how do we help leaders create a better environment overall? So bottom line, helping leaders help themselves.
That is excellent. I think that's something that we need so much of. And I sincerely appreciate what you just mentioned also, because I went to school, as I mentioned, a bachelor's degree, I have a master's degree, learned a lot, I memorized a lot, but I also forgot a lot, except as people sometimes will tell you, it's what how you make them feel that they remember the most. And that's the same thing I think that we receive from all of our education, how it makes us feel and how it applies to us to take forward. Anyone can memorize, like say, PowerPoint, anyone can memorize how to do Word and Excel, but it takes a special art, I think, do some of the things that you're doing and taking that forward. I think that the whole process, the lessons that were learned, and I know lesson more from you, what lessons from that experience that you have shaped you and help you shape leaders today and tomorrow.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I wrote an article and have it on my website. The more organizations change, the more they remain the same. So you and I have been around the block enough now where, we both of us are BI before internet.
Yeah.
So back in the day, when I first got into the field of doing leadership development work, I remember one of the biggest issues back then was communications. Fast forward 40 years later, what's one of the biggest issues today? Communications, lack of communications from leaders toward their workforce. You've got this ongoing onslaught of change that organizations have to do, but our brains are wired for certainty. And uncertainty just became the defining word this year for the second time in 35 years. Only the pandemic was it higher. So when we have so much uncertainty and the workforce is looking for leaders to care about them, to really listen to understand, not to respond, and to demonstrate empathy and compassion, all of those kinds of things, I think that raises the bar for leaders. However, having said all of that, this is not new. We've been here before. And so I feel like, you know what? The Lord's blessed me and given me an opportunity to continue to take that message forward and help organizations wherever I can. Because just last night, as an example, I'm teaching an organizational change class for Kaiser University in Latin America. And as I'm listening
Wow.
to these students getting a certificate in management and leadership, I'm listening to their issues and I've got in there doctors and pharmacists and engineers and so forth. Some of them are founding owners of a business. And what I'm hearing from them say is sometimes the owner or my boss treats me disrespectful, and I'm like, I'm sorry to say it's not new, but there's ways to work around that. And I started to share some insights as to maybe how to work through that. But unfortunately, that is still, it's a unfortunate, fortunate reality that we both face, you and I, in the work
Yes.
we do, that we'll always have opportunities to help others help themselves.
It is so true. And the way to handle that, and when you are treated disrespectfully, ways that you can respond in a positive professional format, help the relationship grow because, as you know, as I think everyone here in the audience knows, life does happen. As I mentioned earlier, things happen. When we come into work, somebody pulls in front of us, there's road rage, whatever could be out there, where we carry that frustration, that emotion impacts our day as well as everyone around us, professionally, personally, and socially. So I like what you're talking about. But let me ask you this: human intelligent workplace. That's a powerful phrase. Now, for someone hearing it for the first time, let's say over morning coffee, how do you explain what it means to them? Human intelligent workplace
Yeah,
in
since
plain
so
English.
yeah, that's a good question. Since you set up the scenario, we're having coffee. That means we get an opportunity to kind of engage in a discussion. So let me share with you what gave me the backdrop that gave me this idea to create this human intelligent workplace. And it just happened to, sometimes things just work the way they work. At the same time, when I came up with the name for this business, AI was kicking off, really exploding. Um, but something that's going on, and I think the tipping point was the pandemic. Something that was going on, I just talked to you about uncertainty. But something that was going on is you introduced me, there are those that call themselves futurists. I call myself a trends advisor. I study the trends, I look and see what's going on, and then I put them up as a mirror to organizations and go, so how are you addressing these? How well are you taking care of these? So, for example, just some trends. We have an aging world, a multi-generation, and with that comes an aging workforce. And we have a multi-generational workforce, 4 generations in the workplace. We have behind that aging workforce, we have a growing more multicultural workforce. In this country, particularly Latinos. So we have that. And then on top of that, we have a growing skill shortage because we have the aging workforce that's kind of retiring, doing something different now. So we have that growing skill shortage. So those are just some of the trends that are happening there. But at the same time, part of the backdrop is you've got the artificial intelligence, you've got the skill shortage I just mentioned, you've got increased workforce stress. 70% of managers are stressed out and 40% are willing to step down. And by the way, for 70% of the workforce, their biggest stressor is their boss. So as I looked at that and I looked at my journey over the last 40 years of being involved in leadership development and helping leaders help themselves, that's when I came up with this organization. And then I said, now I need to define that. So this is how I've defined it. A human intelligent workplace is one where leaders demonstrate effective leadership behaviors. They create an organizational culture where workers experience is one to be engaged while collaborating with their diverse team. That's a piece of it there. The second piece is a workforce where they feel psychologically safe, listened to, and they find satisfaction in the work in the organization they work for. Now, there's some key words there that I've underlined in the definition. If they go to my website, they can see it, that are key, and it has extensive research and books written about it. I've written some of them. Effective leadership behaviors. We know what that looks like. We know that if I work for Mark, I hope he's a good boss and he's going to treat me with dignity and respect. Organizational culture. Everybody knows what that is. They can describe their culture. Is it a healthy one or a toxic one? When it comes to collaborating with diverse teams, how does Mark as a boss manage the diversity of his team? And then when it comes to psychologically safety, one of the biggest values out there that most organizations have or proclaim is innovation and creativity. What they forget is that if you're going to profess that you want an innovative and creative environment, then you need to be open to a 50-50 chance of failure. Because when you're trying something for the first time, being innovative and creative, there's a 50-50 chance of failure. So people need to have psychological safety that if I make a mistake, I'm not gonna, my hand's not gonna be slapped. Listen to, because unfortunately in the book, The Mind of the Leader, only 5% of leaders are found to be effective listeners. 5%. So that's an important piece. And then obviously finding satisfaction. Now, some people may say, well, that's all theoretical. I would argue that there's some anecdotal reality to that. If we think about it, why would we not personally get up, go to work, and want to find satisfaction? Purpose is the big word today. People are looking for more purpose than anything else. I love your whole thing about focus, success, reality, dynamics, and solutions, because people are now focused on how can I, you know, the pandemic taught us
Thank
that
you.
life is short. So how can I do something that's bigger than me than just punching in to go to work? So because of that, I've made this, I've come up with this and said, and even created a questionnaire for people to use and go, based on what the trends I'm sharing with you, how as an organization is your organization truly human intelligent? Is it really, yes, taking advantage of the technology in the era of growing era of AI, how human intelligent is your organization?
And sometimes don't they take that word, they hear intelligence, and then they go back, like we're talking about, to the culture of intelligence. That's smart. How much did they memorize? No, we need to understand human intelligence is understanding the human side of it, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I'll give you a perfect example of that. Today's workforce is looking for a few things in particular. You don't have to, you can go check out my website. I have, like you, I have podcasts and articles and so forth I've done out there. People are looking for autonomy, purpose, and mastery. There's a great TED talk out there by Dan Pink on the puzzle of motivation. Autonomy, I don't want to be micromanaged. Purpose, do something bigger than me. And mastery, I want to continue to learn. Whether I'm 25 or 75, I want to continue to learn. So that's one. Secondly, they want happiness at work. When you and I went into the workforce, I'm pretty sure happiness was not one of the reasons why. But today there's a big push for that. So happiness. The other one is appreciation. The number one thing that came out of a TED Talk 10 years ago, the 2030 Workforce Crisis by the Boston Consulting Group. And they asked, what are you looking for in your next employer? Number one, appreciation, a simple thank you. By the way, pay came out number 8. So there's that. And then, of course, 8 out of 10 employers are looking for more well-being than pay. So that's the psychology of today's workforce that's changing. And that's why it's driving, hey, Mr. Miss Boss, whatever level you are, from the frontline supervisor to the CEO, what type of environment, organizational culture, are you creating a healthy environment in your workplace, particularly when work is the 5th cause of death due to stress, because there's so much uncertainty, so many changes, and so forth. And if you can get people on your side feeling comfortable, psychologically safe, and so forth, change will move forward better. By the way, as much as organizations have to change, it's been found that 66% of change efforts fail. 2/3 of change efforts fail. So think about all the money that companies are wasting, and they keep thinking about, well, it's the new tool, it's a new process, it's the reorganization, and this, and the other. I'm like, no, it's the people at the end of the day that you've got to be focused on.
And I like what you're saying there too, because when you say 60% of it fails, how many times are they training the people that are doing the work and they're not training the C-suite, the CEO, CIO, CFO, the senior managers, the directors? How many of them know what's even being taught at the level of the people that are truly making the money for the organization? How many of the leaders in the C-suite, the directors, the senior managers know what the employees are being
Exactly.
taught?
And you know something, Mark? Let me share a little story with you. There's some research coming. There was some research that came out that showed a disconnect between executives and frontline employees. Um, but I saw that up close and personal a couple of years back. I was up in Canada speaking to the C-suite, literally in front of me. The CEO was sitting right in front of me here, like you. And he had his top execs there. There were about 30 or 40 of them. We were talking about unconscious bias was the topic. And so somehow we got to the topic. Okay, out of curiosity, I asked them in small groups, I want you to average out, give yourself a score from 1 to 5. How effective do you believe you are as leaders? From 5 being the best, 1 being poor. And then I said, okay, out of curiosity, there's 30, 40 of you in here. Rate the managers out there that are not here today. Rate them. I call this the perception problem. And I said, okay, on a 1 to 5. And then I asked them, now, what do you think the workforce is ranked? How would they rank or rate the management team in general? It was, and then I got the average scores up, put it up on a flip chart just to put that back as a mirror up to them. And it was eye-opening. It wasn't eye-opening, but it was eye-opening for them. Because when they looked at their average scores, they were 4.3. When they looked at how they rate their management that wasn't around them, they rated them 3.9. And when they rated what they thought the employees thought of management, it came out to 3.4. So we're good, they need help, and the workforce knows that they need help. So that whole perception gap sometimes that you just alluded to, I saw it up close and personal, even though I had read quite a bit about research that was taking place. So it was in a way a reinforcer for me to see, oh, so it's not just the research. I'm seeing it right here in living color type of thing. And so you're right. Sometimes there's that disconnect between the senior executive teams, unfortunately, and the frontline employees.
That is well said, Edwin. That you said you shared so much out there that it's so true that we need to just blast everywhere in the most professional way, of course. And as I think I hear you saying that as AI grows smarter, organizations must get more human. And I think I'm touching it into some of the things you're just saying. Why is it such a tough sell for some leaders that they must get more human?
Because unfortunately, in some organizations, more than not, they're not being evaluated on being more human. And I'll give you 2 quick examples, yin and yang. Interestingly enough, you may have heard this already. Amazon is cutting 30,000 corporate jobs, and they're calling it voluntarily quit. And they're saying it's because of AI. Now, so that's one way to do it. And I've talked to people that have worked there, and it's not based on what they're saying. I don't know what Glassdoor says, but based on what they tell me, their experience was not a good one. And then there's another example. This one was about Costco, and it was a letter that was sent out from the CEO to this one particular store that went union. And the letter he wrote to the store after they went union, he said, while we're disappointed in the result in Norfolk, this is where the facility was, he said, we're more disappointed in ourselves as managers and leaders. It constitutes a failure on our part. Interestingly, I used to work at the Truist Leadership Institute, and I was talking one time with one of the executives there. He said, I'm not a big union fan. I don't like it. And I said, we do leadership development. The only reason unions exist is because there's a void. Management has not to do what they need to do. Because if employees didn't need to go look for somebody else to listen to them, to care for them, to create a happy, great place to be, you wouldn't have a union. Or at least you have less chance of a union. Starbucks.
You wouldn't have the need for it.
Exactly.
Unions are there for a purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
They're there because of what's not working. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking of Starbucks. One of the busiest Starbucks is here in Disney. As you know, I'm here in Florida, over by downtown Disney. It's got a new name to it now. And they just formed a union. Something was happening there. They weren't taking care of them. This is a busy store with all the tourists coming in, getting coffee left and right. I've been there, so I've seen how busy it is. And yet it came out on the local news. It just became a union. So, and they actually did a walkout. So again, if you're not taking care of the workforce, then, and what's happening is the managers are being held accountable for short-term deliverables. I would suggest, what about if we start measuring them on employee engagement? How the employees are feeling about how they're being treated. You know, look at your turnover rate. All of those kinds of things. How inclusive of an environment are you creating in your organization? Because by the way, if I exclude you, it literally lights up toward the pain part of our brain. If I don't invite you to a call or to a meeting that you thought you should have been at, the first thing you're going to think of is, why didn't they invite me? I should be part of that meeting. So you have felt excluded, and it's literally because your brain is firing up around the pain part of our brain.
That's so well said. That's so true. And so kind of between the, let's call it the executive coaching that you're doing, you're speaking and you're writing, I can only imagine how many leaders that you work with. And as you talk about some of the issues and some of the gaps and reason for unions, they don't just pop up. They're voted in, they're there for a reason. What are some of the most common, not, they don't put this just on unions, but overall, what's the most common leadership myth that you still hear that makes you shake your head and smile?
Yeah, that's a really good
That's a tough question. I know to come up all of a
no,
sudden, but
it's not tough. It's one of those, too bad we only have an hour. It's actually a good question. Well, one of the things I've heard a lot of is I told you earlier we have multi-generationals in the workplace. So I'll give you a funny story on that. I remember it's happened to me over time where people say, well, this young generation, they're just not loyal. So one of them is our unconscious bias, whether it's against women, whether it's against older people. AARP is arguing about, ageism is taking place, or it's against the younger people or different minorities and so forth. And I remember a few times it's happened to me where older gentlemen will say, it's just this young generation. They're just not loyal. They want to be vice president next week and this and that and the other. And I'm sitting there smiling and I go, that's an interesting point. And I said, so who raised them? And all of
who
a sudden,
raised them?
there's silence. Well, no, it's not my kids. It's everybody else. Oh, of course, it's everybody else type of thing. So part of the problem there is their own unconscious biases that they have because we see the world not as it is, but as we are. We see the world not as it is, but as we are. So
Mhm.
you might say a word and there's two people in front of you, but we're going to interpret that word a different way because of our own personal experiences, good, bad, indifferent type of thing. So I think that's one of the issues. The other one is, AI is going to take over the world. And so they think about some of my favorite movies. I was just watching Terminator the other night. They were showing that again. But, interestingly enough, the data doesn't back that up. I'll give you an example. When the PC came into existence, a lifetime ago, it seems like. It seems like it was 100 years ago. When it came into existence, it eliminated 3.5 million jobs, but created almost 20. And the World Economic Forum has just said that
But can I clarify that what you just said?
yeah,
Eliminated 3.5 million, but created 20 million,
exactly,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
that's 3.5 million to 20. It's 3.5 million jobs to 20 million jobs. Because
Exactly.
again, those who learned how to use that computer expanded. So it's huge, like we're running into with AI today. Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to clarify that
No,
there was
no,
a
no.
huge growth. And
Good clarification. But it's not only that, there's jobs that didn't exist at the time. I mean, if you remember the old Texas Instrument calculators, where are they today? I mean, they still are out there some, but most accountants don't use that. You've got Excel, you got Access and things like that to do formulas and so forth. So to give you that example, but the World Economic Forum just came forward and said AI will eliminate 92 million jobs, but it will create 170 million jobs by 2030. That's 3 years and 2 months away, or yeah, pretty much type of thing. And I'll give you a perfect example where that just occurred. IBM laid off 8,000 employees because of AI and literally had to rehire 8,000 employees because of the new work that was created by AI. So AI took some of the redundant, boring jobs that maybe people didn't want to do or need to do and created all this other work. And so the skill shortage is going to get magnified because now there's going to be new jobs that today do not exist. And so there it's how do I help these people work through it? And then when there's interesting research out there in different companies. Microsoft is one of them saying, what are the skill sets we're going to need going forward? What they're talking about is critical thinking, emotional intelligence, flexibility, analytical judgment. Those are all people skills that are not going to be replaced by AI. AI will help us make decisions faster, give us more data, but still, you and I are going to have to sit down and go, okay, based on the data just spit out, what, which way should we go here? It gave us a suggestion, but now we got to color it with our humanized version of it and try to get that. So that's some of the things that I see that's going to be happening too going forward.
I like what you're saying. It's absolutely right. It's again, as I mentioned earlier, AI is not going to take anyone's job itself. It's about learning AI, artificial intelligence, learning how to use it. Just today, I showed a person how AI works and what she can do with it. That she was talking about getting some things off of Facebook. I said, off of Facebook? Let me show where you can obtain the information that you're looking for and find the resources where the information came from, not from, Jane or John down the street, but actually good information. Because the more you learn how to use AI, as you're saying, with your HI, your human intelligence, the more you're going to be able to do, the more you're going to be able to accomplish.
Exactly.
It's a great step forward for people who are not afraid to learn. You mentioned Starbucks. What happens when you go to Starbucks? You have a training program. What happens when you go to any job? It's a training program. You get paid for what you can do based on your knowledge, and you got to learn that. So let's learn AI together. And please let me tell you, I use 6 different AIs. I've got on my machine right now. 6 different AI programs. They all work pretty much the same, but there's also every one of them. I'm exaggerating the number, but it seems like there's 1,000 people that have classes on how to use AI.
You're right.
There's a lot of free classes out there. You don't have to pay $1,000 to learn AI. And you don't have to go to one of these free classes that's also selling you the next course. It's going to save you another $1,000. Get into AI. You can ask AI how to use AI. And I just showed that to a person this morning, how to do that. But let me go to another subject here a little bit, as it seems you're also a senior fellow with the conference board. Maybe you can tell us about the conference board, but what kind of conversations are happening right now there with the conference board around the human side of AI and on leadership?
Yeah, thanks. That's a good question. Interestingly, one of the things that, as a senior fellow there, we've been talking about a variety of things. They have these different forums, and I happen to be, it's no longer called DE&I, it's called something else, but there's these different forums that look at the human capital issues, whatever they may be, whether it's leadership, whether it's organizational change, and in our case, it was DE&I. And interestingly enough, what they're doing a lot of research and coming out and saying, for example, I was listening on a webinar not too long ago where they were saying, well, as an example, some people want DE&I to die and go away. It's not. What some companies have done is just kind of put it under the radar, not publicized it, because there is this demographic wave that you can't stop. You have an aging workforce. You have a multicultural, younger workforce growing. That's the future of the workplace. So how do you capitalize on that? And that's one. Two, even this aging workforce, Forbes came out with an article in 2023 that basically said the largest segment of people coming back into the workforce in spite of ageism are people over the age of 75. They're still trying, they're remaining active. They've got things to contribute. They want to pay it forward. So the conference board is addressing these various human capital issues. And I'm seeing that it's more here than ever. It's going to be more needed than ever. Yes, AI is going to change. Technology is going to change us, but it's no different than the PC changed the way we did work, maybe differently, maybe to a different level. And we will adapt, and there'll be new skills that are going to be needed. We have a skill shortage growing. Well, AI is going to magnify that even more so. And so the conference board comes at it from all those different angles and tries to share with their client organizations, how do you need to be prepared for the future? What are some of the things you're considering? What's happening in your industry? Make sure you don't become the blockbuster of the future or any of those other organizations that were great at one time but disappeared because they didn't adapt to the change that was going on.
They didn't learn and adapt, right? That's so true of what you're talking about.
Or I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And it's not, in some cases, it wasn't that they didn't learn, it's they were stuck in their old paradigm and didn't want to shift. So I constantly tell organizations, get out of the 20th century mindset and start thinking. We're in 2026 almost. Think differently today. You've got these new generations, you've got this new technology, and what, as Marshall Goldsberg wrote in his book, what got you here is not going to get you there. So figure out a way how to adapt and change, because if not, you know, your competition will beat you out.
Like you just said, we need to stretch this podcast out to about 75 hours because we could talk so much about this process. As what you just said, what got you here is not going to get you to where you want to be tomorrow, but that's what I'm talking about, learning. If you're going to learn, you'll be able to go to the tomorrow that you want to see. If you don't learn, as I talked about, you'll be back in that cultures that we had in the 2020 timeframe. It was things that we've had in the 1900s. It's just going to go back that far. So that's a pretty big example, Mark, but it is. What we were doing in 2020 with all the encounters that we had, the problems that we had, to what we have in 2025, to what we had back in the 1900s. What are we carrying back from then that we brought into this technical world? What happened with us with COVID? And then where we are today, what did we bring over that we could have learned different and we could have improved? That's a lot of our problem because it's all on the learning and then being able to use it, as I see what you're talking about, modeling human intelligence. That's what we've got to grow for. We've got to learn or we'll never get out of that habit or that pattern, right?
Yeah, yeah. You've got to kind of step back, and some things I've been writing quite a bit about. I used to work at the Neuro Leadership Institute, and ironically, how the world turns. When I was younger and wanted to be a doctor, I literally wanted to be a neurosurgeon. I took a detour and went a different way. But I still ended up getting an undergrad in psychology and continued in the world in the field and the profession that I ended up in. And so fast forward to when I worked at the Neuro Leadership Institute and got a lot of exposure to neuroscience and neuro leadership and why that's important and so forth, and how this thing up here is not just to put on a hat, and how to capitalize and utilize that. So leaders have an opportunity to really come to grips with and learn, how do I create a brain-friendly workplace? How do I create a healthy workplace? How do you create a human intelligent workplace so that people feel psychologically safe, the culture is a healthy culture, the leaders demonstrating effective behaviors. As a leader, I don't have to know all the answers. I need to be able to capitalize on my diverse team and get the answers from them and not shut anybody down, those kinds of things. And I think that's going to be important because I already told you earlier, for 70% of the workforce, the boss is their biggest stressor, which is one of the reasons in the book, The Mind of the Leader, a third of the workforce said they would give up a paycheck to see their boss fired. Think about that. So for your listeners, if you're a boss, what would your team say? How would what words would they use to describe your leadership qualities, your leadership behaviors, how you're treating them at the end of the day? And oh, by the way, how are you taking care of yourself?
I would love to get more into that too, about the psychology of that and ask people about what do you not like about your boss? But almost like I talked about with my mother when I was growing up and picked so much up from her. How much am I like her as a parent? And how much is that person like their boss, but they don't like their boss? So bringing those things in that reality, and as I say, learning about that is so important.
I agree.
One of the things that you define in effective leadership, as I see it, help me out here, as modeling human intelligent behaviors. So if we could, what might be one behavior that the leaders that are listening that hear this can start practicing tomorrow that moves them closer to that ideal of modeling human intelligent behaviors?
So I'll give you three, and you just said one of them. The first thing to do is listen to your workforce, listen to your team, and listen to understand, not to respond. That's number one. The second one is empathy. Be empathetic. Try to understand where Mark is coming from. And the third one is compassion, which means how can I help, or here's a way that I can help you, type of thing. So I would say listen, be empathetic, and be compassionate, and truly be authentic as you show up. Don't think that I've got it all covered. We're going to make mistakes. It's life goes like this, and we're human. We're imperfect human beings. But when you do make a mistake, admit it. And I think people will recognize, because there's, for whatever reason in the workplace, some, particularly the higher up the individual goes in the organization, people look at that senior executive like they're, I don't know what, they walk on water or something. And I'm like, you know what? They're human, just like all of us. They make mistakes. As a matter of fact, the imposter syndrome was found to be was studied with women executives, because when they stepped into it, they started to think, and now it's with everybody, not just women. They started to think, when is somebody in here going to realize I don't have all the answers? And so
I'm
listen,
glad you said that. Go ahead.
those three things: listen, empathy, and compassion.
Listening, empathy, and compassion. And I think, as you mentioned here too, listening is harder and harder anymore. There's so much going on, and we need to learn to listen better. There's no doubt about that. We only have about 10 more minutes. This has gone so well, and there's so much more to talk about. But let's talk about some things that you do, that you work with. Have you created some tools? I think it's like the organizational change readiness, another way for, say, OCR, and
Yeah.
leadership behavior effectiveness assessments, LBF,
Yes.
LBE.
Yeah, so there's three instruments I've created. First, with my book, The Boss, Behaviors of Smart Supervisors, in there I've included a couple of them, because one of the things I tell bosses, managers, is you have 5 roles. You're a celebrity, quasi-psychologist, sociologist, anthropologist, and a director of an orchestra at the end of the day. And in my book, I explain what that is. But what I've done is I've created a questionnaire to really, for them to reflect and think about how effective am I as a leader, but also they can get some 360 feedback. What do they think? Because one thing is my perception. Remember the example I gave you about the executive team earlier. So that's one. The other one is human intelligence. As I define it, I created a questionnaire for them to assess their own organization based on its definition. If I accept it, how well is my organization doing? And then the third one, I just told you earlier, 66% of change efforts fail. I created, it's actually a model based on Lippitt and Costner. And what they talk about is, in order for organizations to change, you need leadership, commitment, and support, vision, skills, incentive, resources, and action plan. And if you're missing any one of those, you're going to get to a disengaged workforce, confusion, anxiety, gradual change, frustration, and false starts. So I created a questionnaire for them to go, so based on the changes that are taking place, how ready for change is your organization? And gives them an opportunity to, again, put the mirror up to their organization or themselves and go, how effective is our organization? So those are some of the questionnaires that I've come up with to help organizations and leaders sort of help position their organizations position themselves for success and position their organizations for success. And oh, by the way, one other thing I did too was, because I told you 70% of leaders are stressed out and 40% are willing to step down, also created a little questionnaire for them to kind of look in the mirror. I said, these are the things you need, from mindfulness, exercise, sleep, and good, healthy eating, all of those kinds of things, relationships. Based on that, how would you rate yourself in these areas? 1 to 5 scale, to them to look in the mirror and go, which one of these am I doing and not doing at the end of the day? Because I need to put my mask on first. As a leader, I need to be able to help myself out first, make sure I'm sort of grounded, so then I can turn around and help Mark and my team.
So well said. And I tell people this all the time, and I hope everybody already knows this. But when that oxygen mask comes down in the airplane, who do you put it on first? Yourself. If you have small children, of course, that's your biggest worry, but you can't help them if you can't manage yourself. So just like you're saying, look at that mirror for the leaders first. Put that oxygen mask on yourself first so you can keep your strength going forward so you can help others. And if we look in that mirror, if we can have the people that work for us tell us how we manage, we will learn our lead. We'll learn so much more about our leadership that we may only think we're doing and we're not actually doing, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
So, yeah, if a listener wanted to start their own HI journey today, let's just say they're a small business, maybe a nonprofit, where should they begin? No budget, just a willing heart. What can they do? What are some first steps that they can take?
In order, because obviously it's just been, an hour that we've been talking here, I would suggest go out to my website and look at some of the articles and videos I've posted out there to give you a sense as to what is a human intelligent workplace. And then if they they agree with that, then kind of look up in the mirror and then maybe talk to some key players in their small business to go, how well are we doing in this space? Type of thing, and have some conversations there. And if they want to talk to somebody that can kind of objectively look at them, help them from outside the fish tank, as I like to say, reach out to me and let's talk a little bit and see where we go.
Like that idea, just reach out to him, reach out, touch with him, talk to him. We'll give you his URL again in a few seconds. But as we close, about 5 minutes left. Looking ahead, 5 years, how do you see that dance between AI and human intelligence evolving? Will we finally find rhythm or keep stepping on each other's toes?
So I'd like to be optimistic and hope that we do. However, you and I have been around long enough that we see some of the things that we saw 30, 40 years ago still happening today. So there's going to be some pockets, unfortunately, where the dance may not happen. But I think there's a lot of opportunities because more people, like I said, they're looking for purpose, mastery, all of those kinds of things. They're looking for happiness in the workplace type thing. And so I feel good, a glass half full growth mindset perspective that I think they're going to, more organizations than not are going to be there. And because we have things like Glassdoor, people can see, do I want to go work in that organization? And if they're doing the good things, then I will. If not, then I won't, type thing. But I will say that for the leaders, I would suggest try to create a more human, intelligent workplace. And by that, I mean more happy and healthy. Watch, the U is for unconscious biases. We all have them. Mind, take care of your mind at the end of the day. Appreciate, that's number one thing people are looking for. And remember, we're in a new time and people are looking for different things. So remember, leaders create culture. Culture drives behavior, and behavior produces results. So the long answer to your question, I feel optimistic. I feel there's hope. And for those organizations or for those individuals that lock themselves in and go, no, this is just touchy-feely stuff. Touchy-feely stuff has impact, has financial implications. And to give you a quick example of that, in the Great Place to Work organizations, in those organizations, the employees outproduce those not in it 8.5 times better than those that don't. So it does have bottom line implications.
That is so true. And I think sometimes a lot of us, when we were younger, did not know how to handle that appreciation, did not know how to handle it. They were a little bit embarrassed, but it still helps. We learn that going forward, right?
Great. Just a thank you.
Yeah. Wow, what an incredible conversation with Dr. Mouriño. Thank you, Dr. Edwin Mouriño-Ruiz, for reminding us that while technology may shape our future, it's still humanity that gives it meaning. His message about creating human intelligent workplaces and the challenges each of us have to lead with compassion, to listen with intent, and to make room for both the innovation and the empathy. If we can bring that balance into our daily lives and to our organizations, then we can truly begin to form, to live the heart of the Achieving Unity Success Formula and the HI that Dr. Mouriño talked to us about, where success is not just about what we accomplish, but how we grow and achieve together. Yes, that is too in AUSF, Achieving Unity Success Formula. We all can dream boldly, lead humanly, and serve, as we talked about, with purpose. Dr. Mouriño, do you have any final comments you want to say before we go to closure?
I just thank you for this time. Like I said, I will call us out from the mountaintops and continue to push forward. You and I are on parallel paths, trying to help humanity, trying to help the workplace where they're going to spend 90,000 waking hours of work. And as your middle circle there says, leaders focus on the right things. Focus on the right things, and I promise you it'll pay off in the long run. All you got to do is think about that boss that you would work for again because they were effective. I've only had 5 over my lifetime, and I've had a lot of bosses, but 5 that I would work for again. And it's how they treated me along the way. So thank you, Mark, for your time, for allowing me to come on this call here. I appreciate it, and I hope it helps your listeners out there. And if you have anybody has any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me on my website or on LinkedIn.
Sounds great. That's great. And for all of us, let's consider our next aligned step. Dr. Mouriño, human intelligent workplace and everywhere else, where the future of work will belong not to the smartest machines, but to the most human leaders. Thank you, Dr. Edwin Mouriño, and thanks to our AUSF community for turning unity into action. Remember, unity, like technology that enhances human capability, not replace it, is a mindset of value and not just an ideal. These are success strategies. It is a daily choice to lead with empathy, act with integrity, and uplift others along the way. A service that we can share with everyone around us for free, as we gain so much more for ourselves, even though we're giving it for free. Excuse me. So for anything I share may have resonated with you, follow that feeling. Reach out and connect with me, www.unitysuccessformula.com, www.markintrican.com, www.achievingunity.com. Connect with me. And with each and every inspiration that Dr. Mouriño talked to us about today and shared with us, contact Dr. Edwin. Contact him on LinkedIn, through his website, humanintelligentworkplace.com. That's humanintelligentworkplace.com. Go talk to him. Get onto his website. Find out more. Appreciate it. Dr. Mouriño, thank you again for being here. Until next time, let us continue to transform chaos into connection. Let us continue achieving unity. www.achievingunity.com, or call us 303-FOCUSED, 303-362-8733. We can stay focused, turning chaos into connection as we achieve unity by harnessing the power of encouraging, inspiring, and including others in building better businesses, better lives, and a better world. Life is what we make it, so let's make it awesome together in unity. Thank you all. And thank you, Dr. Edwin. Appreciate you so much and your words that you brought to us today, for your message on helping others. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment. Hope to see you all again next week.
Thank
Till
you.
then,
Take care.
cheers.